Welcome to Season 4 of Song Revolution, where you're going to find great information, interviews, and inspiration to fulfill your passionate calling to write great songs. Hey everybody, welcome back to Song Revolution. You know, I love doing this show. We've been doing it since 2017. We have 220 or 30 episodes, and I always want to just encourage you guys, if you haven't checked out the archives, go check them out. We have some wonderful conversations with some amazing people. Matt Maher, Bear Reinhardt from Need to Breathe, Kim Walker-Smith, so many episodes back there that I really want you to get them. Such deep information, inspiration, and encouragement for you to fulfill your calling to write amazing songs for Jesus. Check out everything at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com, and we are glad you are here. And one of those episodes back in the archive is with one of my sweet, sweet friends, an amazing woman who has been making music since about 1999, when she was discovered by Michael W. Smith, signed by Michael W. anyway for Rocket Town Records, and she's made some amazing music, continues to amaze us with her singing or songwriting. I was at an album release party just last night at the Museum of Christian and Gospel Music with our sweet friend, Ginny Owens. Ginny, welcome to the show today.
Oh, thanks, John. Great to be back.
I didn't even get all of the things I wanted to in that intro, but I'm not going to go back and fix it. But I want to talk about your MDiv that you've gotten, your ministry as a worship leader at Redeemer Church in Manhattan, just everything that's been going on since we last podcasted. How have you been?
So many things. You know, I've been on a journey, having all the adventures, doing lots of new things. Never thought that I'd leave Nashville.
We didn't either.
Yeah.
We were not expecting that. And I remember being surprised when I heard that you were heading to the Big Apple.
Yeah, I was so uncertain about whether it was the right decision that I actually didn't tell most people until a week before I left.
Thank you so much for that.
And they were like, thanks a lot. But I mean, I told, my few close friends, but even just most of my good friends, I was like, I don't really know if this makes sense. But I've always left. I remember the first time I went to New York to sing for an event. It was also the first time I'd ever been to the city. I think it was when I first started recording, so I was 22 or 23. And I was like, what is this place?
Yeah.
It is magical, and it's crazy.
Amazing. Yeah.
So there's just always been this love of New York City, and I really wanted to go to seminary, and I've always wanted to do that, but I knew that I wanted to study with folks who were working in an urban environment, and that where their studies in theology had to be very practical and relate to real life. And I wanted to study with a guy named Tim Keller, who's a well-known author and pastor. So when I moved to New York, I jumped into seminary and did that for several years until I graduated. And then kind of during that time, I ended up starting to work at our church, just helping with different needs that we had, and all of a sudden ended up doing that full time, and then continue to be on the road and doing music, part to full time. So there's always new things to try.
You're a busy lady. You sure are. Well, I want to go back and dig into just a little bit of that, and maybe go a little deeper before we talk about your new EP called Different Kind of Water, which is beautiful. I'd already been hearing the songs and then experienced them live last night. But, you've lived the CCM life. And I said in the intro that Michael W. discovered you, but is that true? I mean, back when he was doing Rocket Town Records, when I say discovered, did he just kind of give you your first opportunity there?
Yeah. So funnily enough, I was searching for a job as a music teacher. We probably talked about this on our last podcast together. And during that season of just knocking on every door, trying to find, my way as an educator, and having lots of doors shut. And because people were like, how are we going to hire a blind person to teach? I think these days that would not be so much of a question, but back then it was. But I was asked to sing at church at the time for a Belmont day, because I had gone to Belmont. And at the time I was going to Brentwood Baptist. And so they'd asked me to sing for the offertory, and I sang a song I'd written. There was a guy in the congregation who was an audio engineer in Christian music. And he came to me the next week and he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about, getting into Christian music?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, but I mean, like, everybody thinks about that in Nashville. So that's probably not going to happen." And he said, "Well, you may be right, but we should at least try recording some of your songs and see what happens. I'll pass them around to some of my friends in the industry." And so we did that. We recorded just some piano vocal demos in his little studio. And, every month or so he'd call me and say, "Hey, I've been passing it around, haven't heard anything yet." And there was a publisher named Michael Purrier who eventually said that he was interested, and he and I met, and it was just instant connection. I worked with Michael for, 8 or 9 years. He was my publisher at BMG and at Universal. And he just taught me the ways of the business, introduced me to songwriters that I still love and trust even to this day.
That's so good.
So good. And then he is the one who actually sent my stuff to Michael. And then Michael said, "Well, can we meet with her like today?" And I remember I was at my day job and hadn't washed my hair or anything. And I was like, "I got to meet Michael W. Smith tonight." Oh my gosh.
Goodness.
So it was fun and fast and a really exciting way to jump into this world.
That's such a great story. And I actually saw Michael Purrier at a birthday party about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, man.
Yeah, such a dear friend. And to hear a little of the backstory of how God used him to open the door with Michael W., that's amazing. Don't you love how God creates people that open doors for you like that?
Yeah, just community is so needed. It really is. I mean, even in this industry, it's really important to have friends that believe in what you do and encourage you and say, I know it's not even just like networking. I know somebody that I think would buy into what you're doing and has the same heart you do, and I want to connect you there. So I've really appreciated that. And Michael is definitely one of those kind of behind the scenes connectors.
Yeah. And there's a right way and a wrong way to network, right?
100%.
And there are people that we encounter that you just think, okay, this person is so forceful, and they're just going about it in such a wrong way when it's more godly and beautiful and God honoring, I guess, when you just let the Holy Spirit bring those connections, and we all bring the gift that we have. Well, I'm thankful. Big shout out to Michael and Jan Purrier today, for opening the door. And for Michael W., what a legacy, even to this day of encouraging people, young people, and doing his thing. So
absolutely.
Big shout out to those guys. So so you really lived that CCM life and made great records. You won 3 Doves. Congratulations again on all those. And did you find that you lived the dream that you always, maybe it didn't sound like, I know everybody wants to do this, but you weren't trying to knock those doors down, that God just opened them up to you. But was it everything you had hoped or could have imagined that to be?
Oh gosh, no, definitely not. That would be the honest answer. In fact, I would say now, 25 years later, I love making music so much more now in some ways. I think when I first started, I loved writing and creating my first record, and we don't call them records anymore, but my first album, first project. But the stress of just being gone all the time, working all the time, and I think now there's probably a better system in place, but I wish someone had sat me down and said, "Hey, you need to make sure you're at church at least, 3 out of 4 weekends when you can be. You need to be accountable to people. This is going to keep you sane." So all those things that when you're young, you're like, "Oh, this is, lots of dopamine hits, lots of excitement, lots of let's go encounter the next thing. And let's, it's okay if we sacrifice relationships in the process, because you're just so excited to do everything." And that just, that fizzles out so quickly because you're just running on fumes. So I spent a lot of years running on fumes and then kind of had a burnout season. About 6 years in, Rocketown was trying to figure out if they were going to be able to stay open because all of the MP3 downloading had hit.
Digital hit, yeah.
Yeah, all of that wonderful digital that we love, and yet it does not pay the bills like physical sales did. And so just, I think trying to figure out where do we go from here. It was a fun time. Like, to look back on it, I'm so honored that I got to have all of those experiences and adventures as a young artist. But I do wish that I had known how to best navigate them and how to handle them. So those feel like important lessons that I had to learn later.
I think that's so insightful because even today, even clients and songwriters and artists we deal with would just practically kill to live the life that you got to live and that I did. As well as a worship leader and traveling around and singing and gigging and doing all that. But to pull back the curtains just a little bit and say it's really not all that it's cracked up to be if you don't have the structure, if you don't have the support from family and friends and accountability in church and continuing to really nurture the spirituality that got you into the music in the first place, right?
Right.
So
absolutely, yeah. You have to spend time with Jesus to keep sharing about Jesus, and that was, I remember people asking questions like, "What's your favorite verse?" and just having a few that I would come back to. And now it's like, man, I have so many more things that I would share, but yeah, you don't know until you know later, until it kind of starts to dawn on you how things should have been.
So do you think that burnout season it contributed to your desire to go get an MDiv and to go deeper in the Word and shift into something that wasn't so music driven?
It definitely played a role in that. I actually began taking a few seminary classes when I first went on the road. So that's always been a dream of mine. And then I realized I don't have time to do all of this. So I think part of it was just experiencing that burnout and really doubting my faith in many ways. But I think a lot of that had to do with just my sin and my sort of not listening to the Lord and making some bad decisions. And, when you start to do that, it's a slippery slope. You kind of think God's not there, because you're not actually listening to him well. So that was, as I came back from that, as I began to listen to the Lord again and began to really spend time with him, he did kind of say, well, we got to go deeper. We got to do deeper things. But I think also as I went back out on the road, I began to also realize that people were coming to shows with really heavy burdens that they were carrying, and they were kind of looking for an escape in Christian entertainment. And I thought, I really want to be able to offer them more than just, some encouragement, just some encouragement in song, which is great. But I wanted to be able to talk with them and help them wrestle through the questions that they were having about their faith in light of the difficulties that they were going through. So I think seminary had a lot, my goal or my motivation to go back to seminary had a lot to do with just wanting to dig in with people. Why? You can't do that in a song.
No, well, no, not really.
Yeah, you can lead them to a conversation perhaps in a song, but to explore more deeply, you have to have more time.
Why Redeemer and Tim Keller?
I've always loved Tim's messages, even when, in those dark years on the road when I was not going to church often. I was always listening to Tim Keller sermons and really just challenged by the way that he brought the gospel to life. There wasn't legalism. There was grace and there was obedience motivated by grace and motivated by love. And there was care for your neighbor motivated by how God has cared for you. There were just these new these things that were new concepts to me, and certainly not new in the world, but I had just never had ears to hear them before. So I think I just learned so much from Tim, even about how to engage with people who are not believers, who don't think like I think. And so beyond his sermons and his books, I just thought, gosh, if I get to go to seminary, I want to study with someone who is this insightful. And so studying with him was very amazing. It was everything you can imagine it would be. Even my last few classes when I was taking like the preaching classes, I got to teach in front of him, and that was pretty incredible. So
it could be a little intimidating.
it was quite nerve-wracking, but he was super encouraging, and yes, so it made it worth it. It made my day. It made my life.
I guess.
Yes.
Do you remember what your subject was?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think for a sec.
God. It was God.
Yeah.
It was just God.
It was a hard test. Oh, it was Miriam getting leprosy, like after she and Aaron were going after Moses and being like, well, God talks to us too. Why are you just listening to him? So,
no kidding.
Yeah, it was a tough passage, and but he was really encouraging. He was like,
so more exegetical.
Yes, definitely
Preaching.
exegetical, and and it was more of a kind of a study. So so I didn't have to preach a whole sermon per se.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
15 minutes of adrenaline that I will never forget.
I bet. Wow. Well, I admire him as well. Prodigal God probably is my favorite all-time Tim Keller book. And we might have had all of his books, but for sure many of them. And that one, I know for some people was kind of controversial because with the word prodigal, but if you read the book, you get it. You know, it's like, come on, people, don't take pot shots at a title. Just go get into the meat of the book.
Yes, exactly.
Hey everybody, we'll get right back to the episode in just a second, but if you're a songwriter who wants to grow in their craft, finally finish those songs that have been stuck in your journal for years, and connect and collaborate with Christian songwriters from around the globe, NCS Community is the place to start. We meet every week to offer accountability, training, resources, masterclasses, feedback, and song critiques on things that you're working on. And it's just a great place to connect with other Christian songwriters and encourage each other on the journey of becoming a great songwriter. NCS's mission has always been to empower Christian songwriters worldwide, and we'd love to see you there. So check it out, NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com/community. You can find all the details there right on our website, and we'd love to see you inside NCS Community. Check it out.
So how have you navigated New York, and do you feel like you're a New Yorker? Have you lost your ability to correctly pronounce y'all?
No.
Bless y'all's heart?
Nope, it's still there.
It's still there.
Yeah. Yep. Y'all is just an appropriate word often,
it is.
It's just, and it's quicker than you guys. So y'all works. Yeah, I use
Never
it.
thought about that. It is quicker.
A lot quicker, and it just can cover everyone.
A little contraction there.
Yeah.
And
I
well,
love using it.
I would hope you'd never lose your Southern charm and wit and be able to use bless your heart or bless your darling heart effectively.
Yeah, the darling, I'm probably with most people, I have to not do that one.
Yeah.
But yes, bless your heart is still around, and so I use it frequently. But I do have to be a little careful, Don't want to have too much of an accent.
Yeah,
in the
there you
middle
go.
of all the New
I can
Yorkers.
still hear a little bit of it.
Still there,
so,
especially the more tired I am, the more it comes out.
I get a little hick sounding, the tireder I get.
Or if I'm around people that talk like that. We were talking about that yesterday. The more I'm around Southern people, the more I'm like, hi, how are y'all?
How y'all doing over there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like, the call to worship, of the Lord be with you and also with you. In the South, it's how y'all doing?
How y'all doing?
Doing fine.
That's funny. Love it.
So you have now written and recorded a beautiful new EP called Different Kind of Water. Love it. So after a little time away, what prompted this and what's going on in there?
Well, I have been writing these songs for a while. In fact, Different Kind of Water, I started, I think, in 2019. I mean, it was a long time ago. And just would write a section and put it away. And that song in particular is just about, the longing for fulfillment, the longing for satisfaction that we are all seeking, Christian or not. And we all try to fill it with other things, whether it be money or power or our jobs or whatever our idolatry of choice is. And so just all of these songs, I feel like song evolution, is a great way to describe this album, in fact, because every song evolved over time. I eventually got co-writers involved in every one of them on some level. So
Tony Wood and Cindy Morgan.
Yes, and Michael Farron and Tyrus Morgan. Yeah. So Christian
no schlocky writers.
Yeah,
Come
no,
on.
I was pretty blessed to get them to be involved. But every song is, on one level, a spiritual conversation that I would like to have with friends who aren't believers. I think, especially now being in New York, I meet quite a few more people who just have never, they're not, they haven't given up on Jesus. They just never knew they needed him. And they kind of think, really, you think this guy he matters? Like what? Like, how in the world is a guy dying on the cross relevant for me? And so every one of these songs is a conversation that I hope to, can have, or I have had or can have with my friends who aren't believers. And a conversation I hope that listeners will consider using for the same purpose. Talking about just the longing for satisfaction and fulfillment, or talking about the struggle to forgive, or just even the fact that we are so much happier when we are giving ourselves away and not so just intoxicated with ourselves. So all of the songs are things that we all struggle with, as I said, Christian or not, but also just songs that I hope can spur conversation about, so what's the answer? Where do we go from here? But it's been fun to make. I finally, after we finished 5 songs, I was like, okay, I think we better make this, or it's going to take us another 5 years to write 5 more songs. So we should just put out the EP now. But it's been a blast.
It's so good, and I love it. It is just a beautiful expression of you. I've always loved your music, but it's wonderful to hear something fresh and vital. You've put together a beautiful book here. I'm going to see if I can get it on the camera here. Can folks get this from your website?
They absolutely can.
Yeah,
yes.
It's wonderful. It's kind of like part journal, part devotional. You've got some of the lyrics in here.
All the lyrics.
All the lyrics. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. It's just so beautiful and very, very well done. So kudos to you and your team for this.
You.
So
my lovely assistant Rebecca created that.
Who is like 3 feet from me. I could just about reach over and do a little high five. Well, high five to you, Rebecca. It's really, really beautiful. Very, very well done. So why don't you talk about, well, I was going to ask you about something that you wrote here at the beginning, kind of in the intro to the book. And if I can get to the right page, and you said, lately I've found myself thinking about how I want to be remembered. None of us can control that entirely, of course, but we can make every song, every word, every act count. How do you want to be remembered?
Oh, I think I want to be remembered as someone who brought encouragement, who brought joy, who people knew was listening and hearing them and seeing them, and caring for them. I want to be remembered as someone who cared thoughtfully and well for my friends.
Beautiful.
So we'll see if we can get there.
Yeah, well, I think you're doing a pretty good job of that so far, and to honor people with presence. I found that that's just the greatest thing we can give, is to give the gift of presence, because that's what God is, right? He's the God of presence.
Absolutely.
Well, I know you're going to do a song for us in a moment, but tell us about the Asaph Project.
Oh, yeah. So the Asaph Project was inspired, or has been inspired, especially during my time as a worship leader in New York City. But as a singer-songwriter in Christian music, you inevitably end up leading worship a lot of the time. I mean, or at least I always have. So I was on staff at a church in Nashville for quite a while, but also just have led worship since I began touring. And so now that I am in New York and really thinking every week as the director of worship arts about what a congregation needs, like what my people need to be singing, what their hearts and ears need to be hearing during the week, I think a lot more just about the power of the songs that we are creating for people to sing. And so the Asaph Project is a new nonprofit, and we will train, our materials will be training worship leaders.
That's so good.
Just in theology and in thinking about just song crafting and even song sequence, all of those sort of elements of worship leading. But then also we will have an arm that is creating new music for the church.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Really, really excited to get it off the ground.
That is so exciting. So these songs are part of that? Or
they are not. No,
they're
these
not
songs
really.
are really more singer-songwriter.
Right,
so I feel
right.
like after this album is released on February 20th, then I feel like I'll be turning my attention to the Asaph Project, and we'll start releasing songs there pretty soon after.
And they're more congregational.
They are congregational,
Right,
all
right,
congregational,
right.
yeah.
Well, you have a beautiful congregational hymn, God is Greater, that you wrote with Tony Wood.
Yeah,
that
Greater is the Cross.
Greater
Yes.
is the Cross. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I misquoted the
I like
title.
God is Greater. Maybe we'll write that next.
God is Greater. There you go. Well, I knew
Yes.
it had greater,
greater
in the
in it,
title,
yes.
so I just okay. All right, my little faux pas there, but it's a wonderful hymn-like song. A little bit of 5/4. I loved it last night when you said, "If you can sing, how great how
deep the Father's love."
How deep. I'm going to get it right in a minute. How deep the Father's love, then you can sing this. And it's beautiful.
Thank
it
you.
really, really is encouraging. So,
Thank you so much.
well, we are excited to hear more about Asaph. And is it on your site yet at GinnyOwens.com?
It is not there yet. It will be there soon. Stay tuned for new information coming your way.
That's awesome. Well, what song are you going to do for us today?
What song should I do for you today?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. We're going to bring a keyboard in here in a moment. And
Maybe should we do a different kind of water?
sure.
Okay,
It sounds beautiful.
we'll do it.
What would you say, just as we wrap up, to maybe to someone who's watching today? We have a lot of aspiring Christian artists, and you've been very transparent and vulnerable about the difficulty of really having a life on the road without the support of a church family. But what would you say to encourage someone who is actually trying to pursue that? They feel God's call. Maybe they're investigating, what we're doing here at NCS to encourage them. But what would you say to encourage them at this moment?
I would always say, bring every idea, every part of your imagination, every dream to the Lord all the time. Talk to Him about everything. Weigh it with Scripture. I mean, that's how we learn to dialogue with God, reading Scripture and praying and just pouring it all out before Him. So that's key. But the other thing is bloom where you're planted. And I know that sounds so cliche, but really look for the opportunities God is giving you right there where you are. Because you're going to flourish. You don't have to kind of always imagine the thing that's not happening yet, or the place that you haven't, where the door hasn't opened yet. But really find your way where you are. So find groups that you can write with or sing your written songs to. Find collaborators. Find opportunities to share your music as often as you can with whomever you can, whether it's, folks at the shelter or folks at the nursing home or just like all kinds of places, of course, at church, just wherever you can share, especially when your work is hopeful and full of joy and written about Jesus. I mean, everyone needs to hear that. So find places where you are that you can share that work. And and just find ways, ask God to give you eyes to see the ways that you can bloom just where you currently are.
So beautiful, Ginny. Thank you for that encouragement. That encourages me too. We all need that encouragement to be where we are, be where our feet are in the moment. And yes, it's a familiar phrase, bloom where you're planted, but it's still true thank you so much for blooming where you've been planted, and we just wish you the best in all of your ministries and your music. Congratulations on the beautiful new EP and this book. You guys go to GinnyOwens.com and get this book. It has a CD. If you still have a CD player, it has a CD in the back. But be sure and get this. You can also access all of the music when it's released on all of the DSPs, right?
And there is a QR code in the book, so you can listen to the music now.
So beautiful. Thanks so much. We're looking forward to the song, Different
Thank
Kind
you.
of Water, in just a moment.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, Ginny Owens, such a sweet heart for the Lord, and just continuing to obey God one step at a time and bloom where she is planted. Be sure to check out GinnyOwens.com. And if you've benefited from this episode today, be sure to like and share the love. All right, well, here's Ginny Owens.
Chasing dreams, filling space, tried it all, nothing tastes. I just keep craving another rise to the top, another high's what I want. My hands and knees are shaking, but it's never enough. I'm finding, no matter what I try, it won't satisfy me. How do you fill a heart that's always empty? And what do you give a soul that's always thirsty? Digging wells that come up dry, the fountain I can't seem to find is a different kind of water, different kind of water. Searching high, searching low, for some light, for some hope, anything to keep me steady. I've done it all, I've done my best. It's like I've got this treasure chest, nothing in it, but it's heavy. How do you fill a heart that's always empty? And what do you give a soul that's always thirsty? Digging wells that come up dry, the fountain I can't seem to find is a different kind of water, different kind of water. Some say it flows from the river they call life. Some say it rolls like the crashing ocean tide. All I know is I gotta find it or my heart is gonna dry. How do you fill a heart? What do you give a soul? How do you fill a heart that's always empty? And what do you give a soul that's always thirsty? Digging wells that come up dry, the fountain I can't seem to find is a different kind of water, a different kind of water, a different kind of water, a different kind of water.
Hey, thanks for joining us on today's episode. Be sure to check out all the information below in the show notes, and be sure to like and share. We'll see you next time.